Hey man,
Bonjour.
ça va?
Oui, ça va. Et toi?
Ça va bien, ça va bien?
D'accord pour le français?
Yeah, ouais, ouais.
Je
We
pense que
can
tout le
do
monde
that.
va comprendre, hein? No, I think no one will understand, so we'll just keep it light.
Alright.
Right, we have XQC today with a progression.
Wow.
No, I think it's probably gonna be fine.
Right.
Just don't say "dude" too much, and we'll be okay.
Alright, dude.
Okay, let me check your volume with the music a little bit. Alright, say some more. Let me see where you're at.
Hello, hello.
Okay.
How's it going? I love MapleStory. I quit it for 4 years.
Alright, and they always come back.
Yep.
De retour toujours.
Yes. Vivi? Oui, oui.
Tu dis Vivi?
Vivi?
Ah, c'est le Québécois.
Ouais, un Québécois.
Sure, okay. But yeah, I saw you in game the other day jumping around with a giant hammer, and I was like, oh, you don't see too many people running around with that thing. I think a lot of people forget that it exists. But it is quite.
Yeah.
So you're going for the Crusader look?
Yeah, I guess so. There's no. I'm sad I haven't found any armor I like though yet.
Yeah, they have like the Crusader chainmail, I guess. But yeah, if you're wearing CRA, then you can't cover it, right?
Yeah.
So that sucks a little bit. Yeah. Maybe someday, years from now, they'll actually be able to code properly that you anvil a top like an overall and that it like covers your pants also. Who knows? Maybe one day.
Yeah. That would be great.
That would be great. All right, so let's get you the help that you are looking for. You're level 233 Paladin.
Yep.
And you are looking to get some help on progressing in the game. I think that's why you're here, right?
Yep. Yep.
All right. So what kind of content do you like doing? What are you doing these days? Like on a weekly basis, I guess. And what would you like to be able to do in the near and distant future?
The near future. It might be a bit distant too, but I'd like to solo normal Lotus and Damien.
Mm-hmm.
I was duoing with a friend before, but he hasn't come back yet.
Yet, yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, so I guess that leaves me soloing it.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't want to get carried, and I think it kills most of the fun of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got Chaos Pap down this week with your video.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the next
Nice.
step is normal Lotus and Damien.
Yeah. And have you done Catchy and HMAG? Those are all fine?
Yep.
Yep, okay.
What's the other one?
Hard
said?
Magnus? HMAG? Yeah.
Hard Mag, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But you said another
Oh,
one.
Akechi Mitsuhide?
No, never done that one.
Okay.
I don't even have the quest. Yeah.
It's the pre-quest is a little bit long, it's like a lot of chatting, but the crystal is good value, it's like 86 mil or something. So
Okay.
boss is a little bit annoying, but it's like in between, it's like around CPAP level. I think most people would say it's a little bit easier than CPAP. He's just also very annoying, but easier than CPAP. And it's a good value weekly crystal to do.
Alright.
So when it comes to this kind of stuff and like what you already can do, have you seen my dailies command before?
I've glanced over it, I think.
Mm-hmm. Because it has like all of the content that I think is useful to do like by level. And you can see all the bosses on there as well, like Mitsuhide and stuff is also on there. So it should be somewhere here. Yeah, I put Chaos Sakum lower because it's really annoying. Right here, yeah. So like starting to do, around the same level as all the other ones, right? Like Chaos Pink Bean, Hard Hilla, Princess No, Chaos Vellum, Hard Magnus, like all of those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just because it's really good crystal value. So you're like here, right? So we're gonna try to get you to be able to do all of these things, which is basically the next things here, right? Like normal Damien, normal Lotus, go away. Trying to solo these, and then the Morass, and then Asphere Daily soon.
Yep.
And then eLucid would be like after that. So That's kind of where you're at. So you're pretty... That being said, you're pretty much on course, right? Nothing nothing crazy off here that you're like, oh my god, I can't believe you're not doing this yet. So that's all good. And then the other thing that we kind of use to check if you're on course is the progression grid. Have you seen that one?
I have not.
I have recently updated it. Looks a bit cleaner now. I should probably wait for that. Where's that little... There we go. Boom. And this basically tries to keep track of... you're watching the stream?
Yes.
So this basically keeps track of like at what part can you do... so like this is basically like a simplified version of what the other grid is, right? This one here. The big dailies and the weeklies one.
Mm-hmm.
So but like the most important parts of that. And then this keeps track of like how strong do you need to be able to do that. So basically, if you tick all these boxes and you can roughly reach all of these thresholds in all of these categories, then you can be, then you can use your level as an indicator of how strong you are, and then you can use your level here in the dailies grid, so that you can just check like, oh, I'm this level, boom, click the column, and then look for the blue boxes, and then this is like the priority stuff to choose from which dailies and weeklies to do, basically. So I'll basically be looking at here, since you're 233, and you're like going towards the end of what is the mid-game here in this grid. We'll be looking at seeing if you are ticking all those boxes, or if there's any really big difference. Because basically, where these numbers come from is like, where do you spend your time to get the most value out of your time? To get the most progress and the most damage for your character, basically.
Okay.
So if you're very far away, that means that, you know, spending a little bit more time there can disproportionately give you more value. And if you're already over something, then spending more time on that will disproportionately give you less value. Of course, you want to take into account when there are events. You know, if it's like the day after a Star Forcing event, you might be a little bit higher on Star Force. Or if it's like we just had a cubing, large cube sale or something, then maybe you're a little bit further on the stat. In general, if there's something you like more, then I would advise to go a little bit higher there. And if it's something you don't like, you can go a little bit lower there, and then that way it compensates. Because, you know, it's one thing to spend time, but it's the other thing to spend time on something you like versus spending time on something you don't like. That's usually, you know,
a good investment.
Yeah, because experience of time is like subjective, right? If you're training somewhere, but the rates are a little bit better, but you hate the map, then it's not going to feel good. If you do another map where the training feels a little bit better and the rates are a little bit lower, you can do it much longer, and then in the end you'll get stronger.
I understand.
We want to maintain the fun balance between the functionality and the the efficiency balance, basically.
Right.
So these are the main things that we're gonna keep in mind in the back of our head as to like how far do we need to go with everything, and we'll glance at it every now and then. But most of the stuff is, up here. Not it. Donc, well, you've already duoed Lotus and Damien, right?
Yep.
And have you tried solo?
I tried solo and but I came back after 4 years and I got just splattered. So it's probably mainly because I'm rusty.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I could down it, and I found this week the guild buff that give 30% crit damage and 30% damage and plus damage and IED. You know?
Yeah, depending on how many skill points you get with the guild, right? Do you know how that works? How you get your skill points and everything?
I have no idea how that works.
So there's two major things that give you skill points. One is guild PQ. So depending on what guild you're in, it might be a good idea to check when they do guild PQ and see if you can join to help. Depending on if it's well organized, it only takes like 15 minutes from start to finish, one time a week, so it's not that big of a deal. But the more damage you do, basically you just, there's like a little dungeon where you just kill the monsters in the map, and then you go to the final map, there's a big boss, and then you just kill the boss, do as much damage to the boss with the remainder of the time, and then you're done. And then depending on how much damage you do, you can check if you go into the guild window, and you go to guild rank, and you can check culvert, that's the guild PQ. And then you can click like your rank, and you can see where the guild ranks. And then based on the percentile of how high you rank, you will get more, or you get a certain amount of skill points. And then the other thing is in the second tab is in Flag Race, depending on where you rank there. You'll also get skill points at the end of the week based on your total rankings throughout the week on Flag Race. So if you see an invite for Flag Race, even if you're not very good, you can just AFK in there and go do something else. You'll get a few points for your guild. And if everyone does that, it does add up together. So these are the main things that determine how many skill points you get on... Like when Sunday switches into Monday, the new rankings will be tabulated, and then the guild leader or the junior can set the skill points for the new week.
I see. So it's not personal though, it's cumulative with the guild.
Yeah, to get the skills, but then once you have the skill points, everyone's access to the skills is individual. So you have your own cooldowns, and everyone has the same levels, right? But you get your private cooldowns. Like if you use it, depending on the level, it'll go on cooldown, and you can choose to, like when you're training, for example, you can choose to, because you have the last two maxed out.
Yep.
So you could use, you could alternate between the two, right? So that you're training half hour with critical damage, half hour with the 30% damage, so you can kill monsters more easily around your level, for example. And, but of course, take into account the cooldowns. And then what you can also do is when you're bossing, you can of course clump them together, make sure you have buff freezers so that they stay on even if you die. And then that will give you a huge boost for bossing, yeah. So to circle back though, so you were doing with your friend 4 years ago, not like last week or something.
Yeah, 4 years ago we were doing, and we sometime had a Mercedes with us too.
Okay, yeah. So when you say he hasn't come back yet, you came back recently from 4 years ago, and he hasn't come back yet from like 4 years ago.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna come back.
He's got his life. He's got too much going on in his life, or.
Yeah, to be fair, I lost complete track of him. So.
He might be back, but playing something completely like another character, or.
He's still in my friend list. I'd see another character, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, unless he ghosted you, man. Who knows?
Oh, maybe. Then,
who knows? No,
then either way, I'm not gonna be bossing with him again, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, so that's not the plan for now. Okay. So some of the stuff that you have might be pretty outdated, right?
Yep. I've struggled with flames a lot. I pretty much just stacked them all as I thought, without looking too much, which is real bad. But
okay, well let's so what do you, okay, so the current event, well, let's do the current event thing first, and because that can probably be pretty short, because do you have any questions like for the current event on what you should buy and stuff, or are you participating in it at all?
I'll take your advice in it, but if I do everything I can till next Sunday is when it ends, I think. I will get 15k Neostone flush to unlock that tier of the
next Tuesday, the 24th, is the last day that you can get stones. And then the shops last a little bit longer, but then you can't get any stones anymore.
Well, I'll be fine then.
So you can hit the 15k tab?
Yep.
Okay.
Because I'm at 12k now.
Right, and you're doing as much of the journal as you can. And Sundays are triple.
The journal is completed for this week. And on Sundays I should be done. But I'm also getting my Absolab, my real Absolab weapon next Sunday.
Okay.
With the coins I had from Damien.
Yeah. And you're probably nowhere close to Arcane weapon, right?
Yeah, nowhere close to it.
But in general,
especially
though,
since I want to solo.
Yeah. In general, though, just like general point of information, and like in the last year specifically, the access to arcane items has gone up by a lot. Like the armors and the weapons and everything is way easier to get now than what you will remember from 4 years ago.
Okay.
So
but I need to do Lucid, right?
Yes, Lucid clear. But so there's like fake weapons that we got as compensation. The amount of coins you need to make them has gone down for armors. The amount of coins you need, the amount of droplets you need per coin has gone down. The areas that drop droplets has gone up. The drop rate for droplets has gone up. The accessibility through like shops and stuff has made droplets go up in accessibility as well. And the drop rate for the amount of bosses that drop arcane items has gone up. And the drop rate for the items has gone up on all the bosses that drop it. Okay. So all of that combined has made arcane way more accessible, and therefore most people don't upgrade their Abzo very far anymore. It's like is why I'm mentioning all of that, right? So when you're looking specifically at like how to progress through one set of equips to the next one, typically people don't put as much pressure anymore on Abzo, getting like 20 or 21 star Abzo. Typically they just keep this Abzo at 17 or maybe at 18, you know, if they want to like solo stuff, and then mainly focus on the CRA and on the accessories and stuff like that, and getting backups and getting a higher star force there, and save up the money to go for, you know, and then do Lucid and Will stuff. And then save up all of the droplets from the bosses, and save all of the droplets from the events, and the ones that they get from drop and all that stuff. Throw them all together, and then make like the switch first just to the arcane weapon, and then to the whole arcane set. Yeah. The general progress. So when you want to say you want to solo, you want to does that ever stop, or like the whole way through?
I guess I'd want to solo easy Lucid and then do normal Lucid with the parties. The struggle parties, I guess.
Okay, yeah, that's fine then. You can definitely do that with like 17 star Abzo, that's totally fine.
And past this point, I guess I'll just do parties, because I don't think solos will be realistic without the gear.
You can do it, but it'll take long. The major thing now for easy and normal Lucid that's really annoying as well for the bosses is that even if you have the damage, you can die to the golem, to the dragons, right? Because you can't kill the golems fast enough because of the restriction. But the damage restriction on the golems is going to be gone soon. We don't know when exactly because we don't have the patch notes and everything yet, but probably somewhere in the next 2 months, 2 to 3 months, that's going to be gone, and they're going to take normal full damage. So that does mean that if you just get strong enough, you will be able to brute force through Lucid, even normal and such. But you are at the point where if you start doing it with parties, it'll just be way faster to progress through these things. Yeah. So
yeah, I know I'm shooting myself in the foot with the wanting to solo things and not getting carried.
Well, if that's what's fun for you, right? If you want to solo, I mean, well, there's also difference between solo and not getting carried, right? Like there's, like you said, you can do it with a friend or do like a small group, or you can do full struggle runs with a bunch of people and just like clown around. Those things I think are also really fun. Having a few experience of like, okay, these are people who are really serious. These are people who are maybe just clowning a little bit, and like seeing the difference between those parties. And then putting the right people together and like clearing the boss. I think that's really fun too. But yeah, you know, whichever thing you enjoy, like that's what we're gonna try to make happen in this session, right? It's not like it's bad or anything. That's just the starting point.
Yeah, but I think Arcane is a little bit out of reach right now. So I'd focus more on my. Well, what I was thinking for the Absolab weapon, to be square with you, is that there's a 17-star scroll that you can buy from the event store. I was thinking of buying that and strapping it on the Abso.
Yeah.
And kinda be done with it.
Yeah, I'll keep in the back of my head like the event store when we go through everything, so that I can kind of have like a whole overview first of everything that you're doing, right? And then we'll like piece together like, so what should the priority be for stuff to get from the shop.
All right.
But it's good that you mentioned that, so I'll keep that in mind. Okay. So it also means that your current access to the event, to the Neo Force and to the Neo Cores is not very high, right?
No, it's pretty low. Neo Force I have level 3. At 400, and there's no way I can make 2k before it ends.
No.
I make around 150, 130 per week.
Yeah. So and did you have any idea what you wanted to spend it on the Neo Core shop?
I bought a few flames. I think I buy out all the red and eternal flames, and I haven't touched anything else.
Okay. Yeah, so the reason that I mentioned the thing in the beginning about the about the arcane and stuff is that it is like 4 years ago, and you see an event with like some some droplets, and you can't really buy many. It seems like a waste to even buy a few because you can't really put them to use anyway, right? Yeah, because you need so many. So right now, if you want to make a weapon, you need 216. When people are really like training and drop gear and stuff, if people are lucky, they get like 3-4 an hour when they're like grinding, like full speed with totems and everything. Oh, do you know about totems?
Yes,
Yeah.
I've...
that wasn't there when you quit, right?
I think it was coming out, but no, everyone had Kishin back then.
Yeah. Everyone had the second PC Kishin in themselves. Yeah. So now you can Kishin yourself with... you can go kiss yourself with the totem, yeah. And you know about the access to the totems, the reward points, and how to do that properly? Yeah, you can make a lot. Okay. Yeah, so between like needing that many and between the events and the drops, and there's also droplet exchange now, so you can change one droplet for the other one, so it's easier, quote unquote, to have like enough of one kind of droplet, so you can exchange one for the other one.
Okay.
Yeah, so the combination of all of that together really makes it reasonable to aim for the arcane weapon, I would say. Not like for the next month or something, but like eventually. So do keep that in the back of your head. Like Neo Core Shop, for example, like being able to buy the droplets there is pretty good value, I would say, over the Karma Flames, because you can always buy the flames for Mezzo if you really want them, right? They're like 9.5 mil. But basically 9.5 mil for a flame, and the droplet is 3, so that basically means that the droplet's like 30 mil in the shop, right? Yeah. Roughly. If you add that up and you need like 200, that does mean that the weapon is like 6 mil plus, but it's cheaper than the Mezzo ones, right? So per value. So that's the way I tend to look at items in the event shops. More like if something is available for Mezzo, then usually for me it's a low priority to buy for event currency. If something is not available for Mezzo, or like it's pretty rare to get and it can help my account, then it's a high priority to buy with event currency, typically. Right. So that's also just like general piece of information for like all of the events. But you're aware of totems, so that's all good, so we don't have to go over that. Yeah, okay. I think, yeah, I've got a good enough picture of what we need and where we need to go. So when it comes to your guilds, you're basically just in there, but you still want to like solo and duo and maybe do struggle things. So you're not getting like guild carries and all of that. So that's also good information to have. Okay, so flames was the main thing that you're like confused about. So we'll make sure that we explain all of that thoroughly.
Yeah, I had no flames on all of my gear when I logged back in. So.
Or like did you have, oh god, did you have nebulize before and then you got really bad flames on it to like replace it or something?
Yeah, it was nebulite back then. Yeah.
So you got like 2 all stat and a little bit of HP or something on some of the items? Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh god. I think there was like one situation where if you got a certain nebulite on an item, then you actually like traded up in the switch. There was like a really weird shitty nebulite. If you got that, you actually rolled like a 4% all stat guaranteed on the change. But yeah, so you didn't get the compensation for that, and you didn't get. Okay, well, we're not gonna throw too much salt into the wound, but there's like a lot of free stuff that was given over the years for all of the mistakes they made, but won't dwell on that too much. Yeah, so 3 main ways of upgrading, and we'll focus on flames too much. So typically I go through all of the other stuff first, and then I kind of circle back to equips to give like the full rundown of, okay, so this is what we need to do equip wise, just to make sure that all the other stuff already makes sense to you.
All right.
So I guess we'll start from the bottom with the V matrix. I guess I'll just look at it. Do you have any questions already that come to mind surrounding the V matrix?
One thing I can say, it's not really a question, but I'm real close to having only 2 skill nodes for my trio. And be done with the trio, basically. I'm at like level 22 on if I use all the nodes to level them up. So if I disassemble one of the 3 and craft the reminder into something else, that should be.
Well, you have
real
4.
person.
So wait, I see 4 leveled boost nodes that are decently high level.
Yeah, it's the second and the 2 first of the third line. I guess the 318 ones.
Yeah.
I'll be able to have only 225 like next week or at the end of this week.
Yeah. Well, so
and free a spot, basically.
Yeah, the free spot. But from what I understand, so what I have here in the V matrix, that eventually you do want to boost 6 skills. So you do want to eventually use 4 boost nodes. And if you disassemble a boost node, the amount of shards you get back is very, very low. Very low efficiency. So it might be a better idea to instead look for a different set of 4 trinodes with the same starting skills as your current 4, and to reshape them and to use your level 18s to level up the other boost node instead. And in such a way, try to put the skills together. It might be a little bit of a longer process, but in the end it'll be way more efficient and you'll get there faster than if you disassemble and remake. Because, yeah, the shards you get back is like 1/6 the value of all the nodes combined or something, so it's really bad.
Okay.
So what I have here is like the priorities, it looks like, is Blast, Lightning Charge, and Heaven's Hammer. And then they put Holy Charge, Rush, and Final Attack together. So like the combination of those 6 skills in any combination would be okay, but if you want to min-max for just using 2 at a time...
Yeah, I'd need to lose Final Attack and get Heaven's Hammer instead.
Yeah, because you have 3 of those, right? You have 3... You have 3 lightning?
I have lightning. And,
you have everything 3 times now.
Final Attack and Blast.
Yeah.
60, yeah.
And then the other one you have, that one starts with... Is that the Rush one?
No, that's Blast. It's all the... And the other one is Rush, Smite, and Heaven's Hammer.
Yeah, Rush, Smite, okay, yeah.
And that's the one I'd like to squeeze in by only having... by freeing a spot, basically.
Yeah. So I think eventually, yeah. So I wouldn't. So I would advise against extracting, and look for the combination of these 6 skills. So this is under the V matrix command. I have the list here for like all of the boost nodes of all of the classes in the game. So if you ever play something else, you can also check like which. Some characters have like 3, and some have 2 setups, 2 different ones. And some are like specific for mobbing or bossing, and then it makes it easier to prioritize what you want to get. I guess for Paladin it's a little bit more min-maxy, where they probably squeeze Rush in there just because of the... Have you found your up jump already?
Yes.
That's surprising, right? and the down slash, have you used that one?
It's not... I can't really use it well.
No.
it's not really practical.
Nope. Not at all. But you have it, you know, and
yep.
It's also boosted by the rush attack, so I guess that gives a little bit of value, but not too much. But yeah, no, it's not super practical, that's true. Other than that, you have all 4 of your V skills? Yes. Wait. No?
Yeah, the other one is...
oh yeah,
I have it,
yeah.
It's just not leveled.
Not leveled, yeah. So that's the bursting for bosses. You're liking the Mjolnir?
It's okay. I don't think mine does enough damage yet. I use it like when Magnus gets in the air and...
right, yeah. And for mobbing,
like
you can... it bounces around a little bit, right?
Yeah, but with the level... It's like my only attack that doesn't one-shot mobs currently, so it's kind of... But it's because it's only level 4, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's it is the lowest level, but you know it'll get some love soon.
Mjolnir and Guardian Cross are 2 new skills that I didn't have back then, so they started from level 1.
Yeah, Guardian Cross got a little bit of a rework to get a bigger hitbox, and you're able to move during it now. It used to lock you in place as well, which was a little bit weird. So they did tweak that skill quite a bit. It does some nice bursts, the Guardian Cross. You probably used it already, right?
Nope, I never used it once.
You never used it once, yeah. Basically, you just pop all the other stuff first, and then you go Guardian Cross and you hold it down, and you just... There's like a giant cross that appears around you and hits continuously. So you want to typically like toggle all the other things, then bind, then Guardian Cross, right? So you can full hit it. And then after a little while, the cross gets even bigger and hits even more lines. You just hold it down the whole time. It does a bunch of damage. But, you know, you have like the hammers squealing around you at the same time, so those are still hitting. It's a really solid burst. It'll help you do... I mean, you probably don't have problems with CRA, but it'll help you. And I believe you take reduced incoming damage as well while you're doing it. If you get hit by something, you don't get one shot and stuff like that. So it is,
yeah, well, as a
you
Paladin,
usually don't.
I
You usually
really
don't
get one shot anyway.
Yeah, I don't know if you have enough reduced damage so you can like walk through the laser and Lotus with it. I don't think it's enough for that.
No, I can't get through. Well, right now I can't get through the laser. I die.
Yeah. Feels bad. A lot of classes have something, but I guess, yeah.
And it kills a lot of HP using the cross too.
Well, I mean, I mean, you can go through the laser, but you have to use Sacrosanctity, right? So you could use... Some people do that as well. Use Sacro first and then use it, yeah. And then you can just burst down the first phase so you don't have to engage with the lasers. Probably want to save it if the laser speeds up. It's probably a good idea. I would just use like the regular damage, and if the laser speeds up, then you just Sacro and then start using your cross. And because, you know, maybe by the time you're through with those skills, the laser will slow down again. Because that's the worst part, right? Faster lasers in Lotus, yeah. Other than that, for Lotus, are you familiar with the early switch and the late switch for Lotus?
No.
So when you're using the portal to switch to the other side, do you typically like wait on the top right until the laser is like in the right position?
Yes.
And that's a little bit dangerous, right? Because you can get sealed, inverted, slowed, all of that stuff.
Yeah, I guess.
And stuff can fall on you, you can get stunned, and then the laser can touch you very easily. So the thing that I usually refer to is the early switch and the late switch. So what I just described with you, that's the late switch. So what I would advise is if you can, if you're trying to solo Lotus, is to go for the early switch as much as possible. And what the early switch is, well, you have to wait until the laser gets in position. But what the early switch is basically is that you get up there and that you go boom, right here. That way you're not up there too long to wait, and the robots can't get to you, and you don't have, you know, you don't have to wait for too long. So if you can do that, I would always do that. You stay on the ground, you have the up jump now as well, so you can use it. Oh, I'm using the wrong button. Now I'm gonna get fucked, maybe? No, okay, look, now I have to wait until the late switch. And the late switch, you know, you have to make sure that all the robots are not there. It's just a little bit higher risk to do the late switch. So if you can do the early one, always do the early one.
Okay.
Or, you know, have a character that can jump through the laser like this and then... But not everyone has that, so... See if I can exit without... Nice. Yeah, so that's just a little extra tip. The other thing is that if you're going to be doing a Lotus, the platforms are currently bugged. Yay. And sometimes if you use the platforms to not die to the lasers, your game will just like go back to the channel select and say connection lost to the server. So that's the fun part of trying to solo that boss right now, because you basically get DC'd for engaging with the boss mechanic, which is a little bit unfortunate. Yeah.
That's new.
Yeah, KMS has had like a big range of boss fixes where they go over CRA bosses and Lotus and Damien specifically and fix all of their bugs. The platform things they have synchronized the laser and the platforms better, that you never have the thing where, you know, Lotus just keeps walking around when the platforms are there, waits until the platforms are gone and then uses the laser. That doesn't happen anymore. But there's an upcoming change, especially for Damien as well, where the delayed hitboxes, right, where he dives down and punches, where the later hitboxes, where those get removed. So that's something that we're waiting on. That should be coming soon. But until then, like, the best advice for Damien is, right, when he diagonally punches, when he dives down or when he side punches, always wait like 2-3 seconds before you approach him, so you don't get knocked around and sealed and get a get a stack,
at
right?
that time.
Yeah, get one of those stacks every time. Also, if you see try to get a good timing for when the sword is going to land, and always try to get the sword to land in the corner, because the cleanse is never in the corner, so it will never overlap with the sword that way. And because if the sword is in the corner, it covers the lowest amount of surface that it can. And that way you have the most surface available for safety, and that should give you the most chances to cleanse. And even if you have 2 or 3 stacks, if you're soloing, if you can cleanse at 2 or 3 stacks, I would always do it, because the chance that something goes wrong 3-4 times in a row, or that it desynchronizes with the sword being in the ground, is very high. And if you get hit by one attack and 3 to 4 brands later, suddenly you're at 6 or 7, and then you really have to do it. So then it gets really risky. Of course, you have the escape button, right? You can pop Sacrosanctity before, and then just cleanse during Sacrosanctity and still cleanse your stacks. But if you don't have to do that, then you'd rather not, right?
Yep.
You'd rather keep Sacrosanctity in case you're, the whole map is like the purple skulls. Yeah.
When it goes down.
Yeah, when shit is really hitting the fan, yeah. But I guess for Damien, those are like the most important things, and the other stuff is just make sure that you synchronize all of your cooldowns, all of your important skills with your bind, and try to just always get the most mileage out of your bind. And for phase 2, the cross is going to be a little bit harder, right? Because you don't move very quickly in the cross, but you want to make sure that the blue ball doesn't hit. So try to get the blue ball into one corner, and then maybe pop the Grand Cross a little bit earlier than you usually would in the burst, to make sure that you can complete the full attack before the blue ball comes floating over you. And of course, the later and the more blue balls there are, the more risky it'll be to use it. But it'll still be a good amount of damage, I think.
Alright. I'll try using it in the future, especially for bossing.
Yeah, and I think you can throw Mjolnir at Damien in the same way, I think, right? That you can do at HMAG?
Yes, when he's in the air is when I throw it.
Do you have to up jump for it, or can you just use it on the ground and it hits him?
I need to up jump.
Yeah, up jump. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I do that with my marksman as well, like up jump snipe from a distance, and then I can, if I do it at the right time, I can hit him. But if I hit the ceiling, then I fall down, and then I can't hit him anymore because the ceiling is pretty low, so you have to time it very well just to do a little bit extra damage. But yeah, if you're soloing Damien, he's in the air a lot, and if you don't have any way of hitting him, then that makes the run go very slow. And that's probably why you get 10 lives versus 5 on Lotus, because the runs are much longer, so there's more stuff that goes down.
Another question I had for you. Would you recommend sharding all of the Will of Erda?
For late game and end game, much later, Will of Erda actually becomes useful again. So I would keep that. Blink is changing soon, where it becomes a weapon and magic attack passive of +1 per level. So people use that for late game and end game as well, to fill a slot for a lot of extra weapon and magic attack. So I would level that one as well. What I would shard is decent Mystic Door and decent Hyper Body. Those you can definitely shard.
Alright.
But the other ones I would keep.
Perfect.
Yeah. I am not 100% sure on where the efficiency is for decent combat orders.
I'm a Paladin. I don't use combat orders.
Right, you have real combat orders. Yeah, exactly. So that one is another one to shard, yeah.
Yep.
Well, good thing I have you here, because I would be trying to break my head over using decent combat orders on the character that has the OG. This is how long I haven't played Paladin. I should go back one day.
Yeah, it's fun for solo bossing, but I don't think it's that nice for a big party.
Well, do you know how that is that your third V? I don't know, the links, the one that links you with your party member.
Yeah, that's how we usually did the bosses with my Night Lord buddy.
Yeah, because you do 50% bonus of his damage, right?
Yeah, and it does. It duplicates my attack on him too.
Yeah. If you do Sacrosanctity, he gets it as well for as long as
he gets it as well, and I can give him Elemental Force.
So if you're partying with a Night Lord, you're essentially just, well, half of the damage is getting dealt extra. So you're like, you do that makes up for the lack of damage, quote unquote, that you have being a support. I think, well, depending on who you're linking with, right? If you're linking with like a Night Lord or an Arc or Hoyoung or some people with some crazy burst, then that is really nice. Why Decent Advanced Blessing? Well, he's not using it right now because it's not the best, but Decent Advanced Blessing eventually gives you some stats, but it's a pretty low priority for most characters, yeah. Okay, I mean, I guess you still have 3 Matrix points, but I think you know how that works because you do have some leveled up matrices, so...
Yeah, but I'm not... I pretty much just clicked on things that I thought were nice to level. I should level Divine Echo with the remaining ones, to be honest.
Well, it doesn't really matter. You just level 1 slot at a time to level 5 and then move over to the next one. Because you're just leveling the slot, so if you just want to move the node within the slot, you can always do that.
Oh, true.
Right, like if I want to switch this, then boom, now I get 5 more levels on Sharp Eyes, and Infinity Blade goes down, and now I switch it again. So, yeah, for cleanliness, I guess, I just start from the top left and then just go row by row. But you can also just go all over the place, it doesn't really matter. But I would advise going 1 slot at a time until it's maxed, then move on to the next one. Alright. But other than that, I don't think you're missing anything or doing anything really weird. Yeah, I guess rope lift, maybe you probably got really used to using rope lift. Maybe if the up jump becomes a little bit more second nature, you might not need rope lift as much anymore. And I guess especially when you're bossing, you switch that one out for the cross, right?
Yeah, that's what I'll do next week for sure.
Yep. Yeah, other than that, I don't think at this point there's anything crazy to work on. I would probably... I don't like Weapon Aura as much. I think it's fine, but I wouldn't stake too much in it. So like when you're mobbing, I'd probably like put Holy Symbol in it instead, right? To get the extra EXP and the extra drop rate.
Yeah.
Yeah, Weapon Aura is nice, but it's nice when it's maxed, when it lasts really long.
Okay.
I don't think it does that much at low levels. And if you're bossing, you can you can definitely use it, but there's other, yeah, especially if the more burst heavy you get, the less that skill is important, but more like the Goddess Blessing, for example, become more important because then you can boost your entire burst more, right? Your Grand Cross and your Mjolnir throw during the bind. That's when you can confirm all the damage, and that's when you want to stack everything together. It does give some final damage, which is nice, but that's a passive buff anyway. The best thing comes when it has high uptime, so that's when it gets really nice.
Alright. Keep that.
But yeah, it needs levels later for that. But yeah, other than that, yeah, just make sure you know which 6 skills it were, right? For the boost nodes?
Which one?
For the boost nodes, which 6 skills you were looking for?
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, rearrange those, and I guess once you're above, once you're like level 21, 22, like on the individual boost nodes, then at that point I would probably start making like crafting skill nodes instead of boost nodes, because then eventually through opening nodes your boost nodes will max anyway, and the efficiency is going down a little bit on the boost nodes anyway, so the efficiency will be a little bit higher on the skill nodes on min-maxing your burst and min-maxing your you know, making sure that the Mjolnir can one-shot, that kind of stuff.
Alright.
Okay, yeah, your passive stuff, the threaten, I think that's all still the same. Oh, you've got the critical chance. I don't know if people ever go for the critical chance on skills, because you want to have like 100% crit regardless, right?
Yeah. I don't have it yet. I'm at 88% without... no, I'm at more than that.
Well, you have the Neo Force right now. It's probably giving you some crit.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
How much is that giving? Is it 10, 15?
I got 15 right now.
Yeah, so that's what's getting you to 100. So without it, you were at 88, you think? Like around there?
I was 88 without Sharp Eye and my buffs. I'm probably not too far away.
No, yeah, this Sharp Eyes is 10, so then you'll be at 98. And we can find some more crit somewhere.
Yeah, I think I'm at 80. Yeah, I have none from Legion. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, yeah, but the cooldown on the hammer, that looks right. Blast, extra strike. Yeah, probably switch the blast with the... Well, you have the blast reinforce. So probably change the crit with... What did the threaten do? The persist makes it last longer, and the opportunity... Do people get that?
I think they used it before, because whether or not it was, if it finished early, the icon would still stay. So with persist, you'd know if you see the icon, it was still up.
Right, because the regular, you have the regular threaten, and then you have the empowered threaten, or like on a different timer or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. But that would give you 50% IED, which does allow you to not need as much IED, so you can go harder on the other stats, and you can like lower priority for your Legion and your Link on IED. So maybe that has more value than the blast critical chance, right? Because we're gonna also make sure that we get you to 100% crit rate with everything, and then that blast critical chances is gonna be a wasted point.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we could move that.
So that's probably what I would move. Other than that, seems fine. Okay. Any questions with any of that?
No.
Okay. Link skills. How are you feeling? You feeling confident with your link skills?
I think they're okay-ish. I don't think they're good. Mm-hmm. My core aura is nothing right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say
it fades out.
Yeah, it only locks for up to 1 year. So if you're gone that long, it definitely
yeah,
it's definitely gone. That's not a huge problem though. And those are the other ones you have access to. Right. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, for Invincible Belief, you can stack it with you, right? If you want to.
Mm-hmm.
If it's highlighted like this, so it's like the hero and the Dark Knight can stack in your own link skill, so it doesn't take up an extra slot. So is this... Well, this is kind of like in between, right? This is like a general setup, right? This is one that you use for both mobbing and bossing.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. As the Legion as the Legion grows, you'll have a more specific bossing and mobbing setup here, of course. Something like Fury Unleashed and Lightwash is of course only useful when you're bossing, and Elven Blessing and Rune Persistence only useful when you're mobbing, so those will be like swapped out for other ones to min-max when you're doing the other functionality. When it comes to Legion and leveling other characters, do you... Because I think your setup, like if this is what you have to work with, and this setup is fine. Do you enjoy working on Legion? Is that something you like doing, or not really, or what do you feel there?
Well, it depends mostly on the characters I level, I guess. Right now, I'm playing around a bit with the Kaiser, and I like it, so it's not that bad. But it doesn't bring much to the table other than the strength
HP.
From yeah.
The Legion board is strength, but the link skills HP, so that's not super value.
Yeah, I just need to find a character that I like to play, and that'd probably be okay, but I don't know. Mercedes I hated, Kinesis I didn't like. I don't know. And Demon Avenger and Demon Slayer, it's been way too long since
you played
those to remember, yeah. I think I liked Ayato back then, but I'm not too sure either.
Hayato's the fifth job is well, so you started playing when all the character, or you quit when all the characters had like one fifth job skill, right? Or maybe just started getting their second one, maybe?
Yeah, I quit. I got the second one. The spinning hammer. I had that when I quit.
Yeah, because
it's the second skill, I think.
Some characters were like with one or two fifth job skills, they were kind of like but now with four, some of these characters are really really good. And a lot of the problem is a lot of work goes into getting to fifth job first, and then to know if you like the fifth job or not. That's a little bit of the problem now. So when it comes to building your Legion and you know, that's supporting your account and getting the bigger grid and getting the the member bonus, and of course getting access to the link skills and everything, I have this command that is a little bit zoomed in. Oops. Which looks at all of the important stats in the game that you can get from Legion and Links, and basically puts them together into one grid to come up with like the priority of what I think is the most important to work on your account, and which priority helps you grow your account from an efficiency standpoint. So if there's a character you really hate, I would always say just like push it aside and just wait for burn and then burn it if it's a high priority. If it's kind of low priority and you don't really like it, then just whatever. But if you do like it, if it's higher up, then definitely do level them. It's got all the, it's got the colors down here on like what these all mean, what the colors, what the white and the green mean. So which the green is Legion and then the white one is the link skill, and also which levels you need to be for all the intervals. But I think you know that, right?
Yep.
That's why you have some characters at 140 already. Do you have a 0 on your account?
I don't think we could make it back
Yeah,
then.
you can make it right now, so I would advise to make one. There are talks in KMS of making it permanent and everything, but right now in GMS that's not the case yet. So I would definitely make one right now before. You still have a week to make it, so good timing on that. Because the link skill piece, sorry, the Legion piece for 0 is extra EXP, so that'll help you build your Legion and it'll help you train on your main as well.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, level 200 0 gives you 10% EXP on the Legion piece, which is...
okay, that's huge.
Yeah, it's huge, right? It's like the same as level 15 in your hyperstats. It's the same as 40 blocks filled in your bonus experience, and it's half of your Mercedes level 3 link skill, so it's really big. So definitely put that one on the list to make. Other than that, this is like the general... and yeah, you guessed it, like Kaiser is actually dead last on this list. For you personally, it might be a little bit higher, right? Because the strength substat maybe pushes some other out of the way. But because of the priority that I've set here, Kaiser is actually like, yeah, dead last. Yeah, that's so you guessed that one correctly, that it wasn't the most useful for your main. But I mean, yeah, all the strength does add up, because if you look at all the characters that give you strength, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5 characters. So if they're all 140, that is 340 strength. That is a decent chunk, of course. If you get them all to 200, then boom, you're doubling that to 640, of course. That's really nice. But yeah, the general progress, so like the bonus experience ones, and then the crit rate ones, like these are very important. Because if you can get your crit rate for a new character up immediately by linking all of the crit rate into it, crit damage, and the EXP, a new character is going to train way, way, way faster. And then even those classes that you don't enjoy very much, at least it'll be fast. And you can easily get to 100, kill Zakum a few times, and then just, do Zakum over time, and then eventually they'll get to 140, but you don't have to worry about training them too much anymore. And that's... Yeah, it's like if you like the character, typically I would go in and do all the levels, at least up to 140. And if I don't like the character at all, I would just like park it at 100, do Zakum, and then just don't look at it. Like every day Zakum, and then log out again. And then eventually they'll be 140, kind of like that. Because eventually, if you can, keep making characters, and the top 40 characters count for your Legion level, right? If you can get all of those to 140, and you already have a few characters higher, then you will reach 6k Legion, and that will give you access to the full board, and to be able to put way more characters on the board as well. And then you can start maxing out things like critical damage and boss damage, because you probably don't need that much IED, right? Yeah, because of Threaten, exactly. And yeah, that will just increase your boss damage by a lot. And for the Legion board itself, because you have 2 presets, right? What is your other preset for? Is that one for Legion or?
The other one is just messed up.
The other one is messed up. Okay. So if you're if you're planning to work on Legion as well, what I would say is like don't do too much of one thing. Like don't only work on your main and don't only work on Legion, because I think it's better to have a good balance. If you like to work on your main most, I would say always every day do a little bit of Legion, just a little bit. Maybe make a new character, or get a new character, get an existing character to level 100, or maybe do a few Zakum runs on a few characters that are at 100 just to gain levels. Just a little bit every day. And then already within a month, you'll see a huge change, and you'll see like 4K will be very close. You'll have the bigger grid. And so for that, I would make 2 setups for Legion. One for your, 2 setups in Legion. One for your Legion characters, for grinding the new characters, and one for your existing character.
For the main. Okay.
Yeah, for the main, yeah. So this one is probably fine for your main, I would think, right now. Maybe when the skill changes and if you want to move some things around, we could move into critical rate maybe a little bit. And maybe if you get IED somewhere else, then it's not even that necessary to have the IED, but we can look at that once we have all the information. And for the Legion characters, the most important thing will be to fill out critical rate, because most characters start with very low critical rate, right? And they are not going to be bossing, so they don't even need boss damage and IED. So you can fill out critical rate and critical damage by just doing like a flat line through the middle like you did for this one.
Bonus XP, I guess.
Yeah, and then any leftover you can do a bonus XP, and then if that's full, and you still have left, you can put some more in just main stat or in attack. Like flat attack and and like 5 stat per grid in the beginning are pretty similar. So which one you do doesn't really make that much difference. Sometimes people even put in HP if a character is too squishy to make sure that it doesn't die as quickly. Because, just a little bit of stat doesn't make much difference, but dying and not dying is a huge difference. I don't know if you saw the changes to the penalty when you die on your character?
I saw a hit on one of the character I was leveling. You don't lose XP anymore, you just lose bonus XP, I guess.
Yeah, you get like a debuff, right? So your drop rate and your experience goes down. But if you buy a safety charm, then it takes care of the debuff and it goes away. Also, you have to stay online. Like, if you don't want to do that, you have to stay online for the debuff to disappear. Because if you just log off and log back, the time is paused. So it just continues where you left off.
It's the one buff that you keep.
Yeah, You lose everything that's functional, but everything that hurts you...
You lose XP buff, you lose decent skill, but no...
Well, a few more things are actually saved now. So MVP is saved, and all of the wealth and item accumulation, those are saved now. And all of the experience buffs are actually saved when you DC, or should be. Yeah. So that's slow steps. So 4 years of progress there to save 3 extra buffs when you die. Welcome back, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a lot has changed, but not a lot has changed, you know.
Yeah, I quit during right after Override, I think. And Override was when we got the second V skill, right?
Yeah, I think so. Okay, yeah. So for Legion, I would do that. Those priorities, because most new characters start with low crit rate, and that means the critical damage can't work. So you need all the crit rate first. Dump all the crit links. Dump all the HP links. And then, sorry, not the HP links, the XP links, and then the critical damage and the flat percentage damage links, and then new characters will be way stronger from the beginning. And just slow and steady, always every day a little bit on Legion, and then you'll have big Legion before you know it. And it's mainly if you want a boss that Legion is very important, because a lot of boss damage, critical damage, IED all comes from Legion and links together, and utility as well for later, right? The resistance link skill and. For some other characters that might get knocked around, like the Mihai Link skill, a lot of the utility also comes from Legion, specifically from the Link skills there.
So you'd recommend 0 first?
Yeah, definitely make a 0. You don't have to like train it right away, but definitely make one now, because it's only going to be available for another week to create. But yeah, if you look at the links grid, you'll see 0 is very high up here as well, right? And I think you have the other 3 already: Mercedes, Aaron, and Evan.
Yep.
And 0 is there.
Not 200, but
yeah, not 200. So I would first work on getting everything either 120 or 140, you know, whatever you prefer. Eventually 140, so you can get the 6k Legion and get the full grid. And then you can choose, okay, I'm just going to keep 6k Legion, or I'm going to make the jump to 8k, but that's a pretty big decision. And if you make the jump to 8k, then I would prioritize characters with good level 3 links and with good double S Legion buffs to get those to 210 or 200 first, and then all the other characters will go faster again. But basically, you just start back from the top and work your way down again. So mostly, like, these first 36 characters are like the most important. Mostly. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Do you want the link? I guess I can link it to you. You can find it in the chat under exclamation mark links
I got it.
as
I
well.
think someone...
Oh, you got it. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, no worries. It's all under the many commands that I'll be showcasing during this. It's also a good thing. Just keep looking at it. Make sure that everything is working every time. That it's still up to date. Because a lot of moving pieces in MapleStory, right?
Yeah, there's a lot that goes around, I guess.
Yep. The time has come. What's up, Jesus? How you doing? Okay. Okay. Any other questions for Legion and Lynx? Nope. Okay. All right. We'll move to the next one. So one thing that you don't have anything for, which I probably have to explain as well, is familiars. Have you heard about that?
Yes, I tried to look a bit at it, but it's kind of confusing.
Okay. I do have a link for that as well. Familiar guide. I put it in the chat. We can go through things very quickly. It's basically a bunch of the number data behind it, and then in the back it has basically advice on what to do, what you can work on if you want, and some links to information. So one has all the possible outcomes of the familiars, because the familiars basically now, when you find them, kind of like items, they have hidden potential, and they have 2 potential lines that you can reveal. So here are this first link is all of the potential outcomes of the familiar, depending on the rarity of the familiar. And then the second one is basically more information on how drop rate works in the game, because that can be a bit confusing, because there's item drop rate, meso drop rate, meso obtain, and it can be confusing to people sometimes, what means what exactly, and which sources stack, and how far do they stack, and all of that. So that's all explained in this one. And then when you're working with familiars, also the more badges you get, you will get extra quests. So if you get 1 badge, you'll get a quest to unlock your 2nd familiar slot. And if you get 10 badges, you'll get a quest to unlock your 3rd familiar slot. So in the beginning...
I got the 2nd slot unlocked.
Yeah, so in the beginning you just get 1 slot, and that's fine for a long time. But if you're trying to min-max later, and you go trying to do Lucid and Will and stuff, and you also want to add healing familiars to make sure that you help your team survive, then it's a pretty good idea to not lose too much damage from the familiars you have, but only gain more utility from the healing. And so at that point, it's a good idea to unlock the 3rd slot as well. So this 3rd link goes into detail on which badge sets you can get easily, and which ones are a little bit harder to get, but which are relatively high access, and you only need 10, and the list has way more on them, so whichever ones you like to get is is fine.
Okay.
And here's the general advice, but basically in the beginning, the only thing that's useful when you can only find common and rare familiars from drops, nothing higher. And the only thing you're really looking for in the beginning is either 15% IED, because a lot of characters lack IED early on. And we can double check for you, but unless you have any lines on your WSE, which you don't, sometimes people rely a lot on IED and their WSE early on, and then if you can get the familiars, maybe that means that you can re-roll your WSE for more damage.
Okay.
So that could be for other if anyone else asks you, or your friend comes back, or you want to play on another character, then that's something where you can early on get a lot of IED.
To keep in mind.
Yeah, because we don't get the codex anymore, right? Remember back when they had the codex and the leafer set, and then that was a guaranteed 30% there. So now you have to get it from your familiars, because your familiar badges together are supposed to kind of replace the codex set, but they're not nearly as good. So you have to get more from the familiars. But if your familiars are good, you can get more. So when so in the beginning, it's just 15% IED, maybe a little bit of healing, but the healing is pretty low at those early levels. The other thing would be for drop rate, and if you check the link for drop rate, it'll tell you the name of the drop rate line, how much, what percent that translates to, and then that way you can see if it's the drop rate that you want and how much is it and which one is better than which. So it has the list of all of them here. So you can see if it's 30% or 50 or 60 or 100 or 20 or 40, right? Because it's all large amount, small amount, which yeah, it doesn't really say much. So there you have the numbers, so you can compare them better.
Yeah, the only familiar I really have right now is the the big spiders from back then.
Ah, yeah, you have the big spider. So that's
large amount.
the
Item and mezzle.
Hang on. Yeah, it should be. Oh, here, yeah. Increase item and mezzle drop by a large amount. Yeah, so that's 60% on both. So even under current standards, that's a really, really good one. The only one that's really better is if you have enough. If you have at least 67% drop rate on your equips and everything, to make sure that you always drop a bag, then you could move away from that one and move into 100% drop rate, a large drop rate just by itself, if you find one, and then that would give you more chance of all the other drops of like droplets and nodes and all of that stuff. But this one is only on epic and unique, so that one is very hard to get. So in the beginning, if your familiar doesn't get those lines, you can basically just extract them and get rid of them, and then it'll give you extraction points.
Alright, yep.
And then you can use those in the shop to either extend the duration of your familiars if they run out for the day, because of the familiar gauge, right? That depletes when you have them summoned. Or you can buy booster packs if you want.
It doesn't come down. It doesn't come back up over time. It's once per day.
At reset, it completely replenishes.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so if you want to, yeah. So also, the more defense you have with your familiars, the slower it goes down. So if you have more familiars out and they are higher level and higher rarity, they will have more defense. And you can see the defense on the card itself. So if you have decent amount of defense on 3 familiars, then you can keep them summoned for more than 2 hours. But if you just have 1 or 2 familiars, low level, low rarity, it might be closer to like an hour and 20 minutes or an hour and a half, something like that.
Okay,
so keep that in mind if you plan to play for a long time.
How do you level them up?
By having them summoned and killing monsters near your level. They will gain experience and level up to level 5.
Oh, okay.
And that's something that
and
you will
5
want
is
to...
the max?
Yes, level 5 is max. Yeah, I think in non-reboot it goes higher, but for reboot 5 is max. And that's also what you will need to do later. So in the beginning, the reason that you extract them and everything is because it's all different types of familiars, right? And when you're working on Legion, and you get like some drakes and you get some stone mask guys, right? And all of them are from different places. And because if you want to go for higher rarity for the epic and the unique, you need to fuse them together. And in order to fuse them, they have to be the same familiar. So until you are actively training in an area where they just drop by the hundreds, because you need to fuse a lot of them together, you're not really going to work on fusion and trying to go for the higher rarities.
Yeah.
Okay, I really need to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Alright. That's not gonna happen, Ripley. I'm sorry. Hey, Gabs Kings. I see my accent isn't fooling anyone.
Sing a song. Oof, close one, Epic. Alright, I'm back. So where were we? Right, tiering up familiars and everything, right? So the main reason you do that is because you can get big chunks of healing at this point, and that will really help with bosses like Lucid and Will, specifically with Will. and the bosses after that as well. And then the drop rate because of the chance of the large drop rate. And then the IED and the IED goes from 15% lines to 30% lines. And boss damage comes in with 20% and 30% lines. And those are like the big ones that you want to get.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's a small chance for like item acquisition and auto steal, which also do a little bit. So those are not the worst to get, but yeah.
When I reveal a familiar, if he has healing, drop rate, IED, best damage, I keep him.
Yes.
Other than that, I just shard it.
Yeah, so depending on so yeah, if they're normal or rare, if they are one of in an area where you get a lot, you can keep them and use them for fusing instead. So for fusing, you will need to well, I don't know if you've looked at the UI before. So you go to collection and infusion, right? And if you have one like this, and you have oh, I have two of these, right? So if I go fusion this, then you see if I have the same cards, it will show up here. And then I can click them here, and then it goes up. So you can see up to 50. Well, you never want to fuse a common, right? You want to at least start with rare, so you can skip that step. Because the higher you go, you also have a chance to fail, and if you fail, you lose half of the fusion, and you need to fill it up again.
Of course.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So the card has to be fully fusion and has to be max level, so you also have to summon it and train with it out. So that's why you want to go for the third slot later as well, so that you keep one or two useful familiars that help you in training, and then keep the third slot to level up an extra card while you're training. Sometimes people even use just one drop familiar and then 2 slots to level up a familiar at the same time in the beginning to get a lot of epic familiars and maybe some unique familiars. If you train a lot, then you want to... and you reveal an epic and it's shitty, that'll happen a lot. You can either use it and like level it again and fuse it up again to try to go for unique, or you can feed it to another epic or to another rare to increase the fusion there. It'll depend on how much you're training and if your inventory is like completely full of cards or if you have more than enough room. It'll depend on that basically.
Does it resets his current lines when you fuse it?
So every time you rank up a familiar, it'll completely reset what it has, yeah. So you typically want to rank up familiars and fuse on familiars that have shitty lines already. Not the ones that you're using and not the ones that are good. Yeah.
Okay, I thought you wanted to boost the
yeah, no, some people do that and they're like, oh, this one's really good, I'm gonna rank this one up, and then you just get a random shit line and you yeah, you lose it all. That's a good question, yeah.
Alright.
Yeah. It's basically, yeah, so in non-reboot they have these things called red cards, which is basically like a cube for the potential, so then you can re-cube after you did it, so you don't have to fuse so many, but we don't have that, so you have to go like power in numbers, so the more you make, the more chance that you get something useful basically. Alright. Yeah, so that's familiars. So early on it's mainly IED, which will be useful in the sense that it'll make sure that you don't have too much pressure on IED from other sources. Maybe you can even lower the hyperstats in IED a little bit, right? Maybe you don't have to fill the hyperstats in Legion, which right now doesn't give you much damage. But if you go to 4K, 5K, 6K, the fact that you can fill out boss damage and critical damage and maybe can ignore defense, because you can just get some ignore defense from the familiars instead, because familiars won't give you much else at that point anyway. That might make it so that by proxy, they're actually kind of giving you boss damage, right? Or actually kind of giving you critical damage. Yeah. So there is a lot of value in them at that stage. Yeah. Right. Okay. If all of that makes sense, then we can get to the equips and the general advice on progressing through the game.
All right.
So with that being said, there's 3 main ways of upgrading, right? There's the star forcing, the flaming, and the cubing. So I guess we could talk about the flaming first, since that was a little bit confusing to you. I have a flaming video on that as well that goes into all the details. But basically, flames are a like complete hit or miss, right? Either you get a really shitty flame or you get an amazing flame. And every flame is just like a complete random reroll, kind of like with the familiars. Very similar to the cubes, right? You either get really good potential, what you want, or you get absolute dog shit. So a lot of times you will slowly work up to something that is like worth keeping, and then you'll work on other items until all the items have something worth keeping, and then you'll slowly increase your standard of what is acceptable for you to hold. And that standard is going to be reliant on two things. One is whether the item has flame advantage or not, and the other one is the level of the item. So the level is easy. Like, the higher the level, the better the average outcome of the flames. There's a whole list of, like, at this level, this tier of a flame can be this number. And it's like a huge grid with like a bunch of ranges and a bunch of numbers, and it can get very confusing. But basically, a flame has rolls a certain amount of lines, and then within those lines, a certain quality of the lines. So the tiers are determined by the level of the... so the quality... Hang on. The amount of lines is determined by the item advantage, right? If it has flame advantage or not, that thing. And the quality of the lines is determined by the quality of the flame, so whether it's a powerful or an eternal. So an eternal has the lower range is one higher, and the upper range is also one higher. So on average, the outcome is better, basically. Like, not a lot, but it is better. So you want to prioritize using that on the items that have the most value, so things that you would either transpose or your high-level items like your weapon. That's where you want to prioritize it. But if you only have a few, then they basically have the same value as the powerful. And most of your good outcomes will come from powerful flames because you just have way more access to them, and there's just power in numbers there again. And they're pretty close to Eternals anyway. So one thing is that you have to know if an item has flame advantage or not. That's very important because that will determine if it's important to flame that item. And if you do flame it, what you would consider a good outcome or a bad outcome. That is determined. So... in the beginning, knowing which item has flame advantage and which item does not is kind of tricky. There's one very easy trick, and a flame advantage item will always have 4 lines of stat, and will have higher tiers as well. So I forgot to mention that part. Like, the quality of the rolls is determined by the flames, but also if you have flame advantage or not. It'll also be lower if you don't have flame advantage. Okay. And flame advantage is just something that a type of item has. It's not like you can have an Abso glove with and an Abso glove without. It's just Abso gloves have flame advantage. That's how it works. So usually it's like the higher level item sets, all of those have, and the non-KMS content tends to not have flame advantage. So like all of the Golok stuff does not have advantage. All of the Sweetwater stuff does not have advantage. Absolab does. Arcane Umbra does. Boss accessory set pieces, most of them do, but not all of them do. So there's one easy trick to see is that do they have 4 lines of stats that are changed? Sometimes it's hard because one line of stat could be, for example, that it gives you intellect and luck. So then, yeah, so you can have intellect, you can have luck, and then you can have a third line that's intellect and luck, and then you can have another line that says dex, for example. But then if you look on your item, only intellect, luck, and dex will have a plus. So it looks like 3 lines, but probably 2 of those numbers are going to be pretty high. And that kind of like gives away that the item does have flame advantage. So if you look at your weapon, right, you see, oh, strength is a decent amount, intellect, weapon attack, and it has all stats. And it's an Absolab, like this is flame advantage item. It's very clear. Okay. For the gloves, you can see like, oh, the 5 magic stack and the 5 all stat and the other numbers. Like that's a lot of stats going on. For the shoes, you can see also a lot of numbers, and even a 6 on jump. 6 is impossible if it doesn't have flame advantage, so it has to have advantage. But again, it's all part of Absolab sets, so you already know from the get-go that it has...
It's advantage.
Yeah, like the 79 strength, technically you can get that high on an item that doesn't have advantage, but it would be almost the perfect roll. So with how common something is as well, that usually gives it away. And for CRA, well, you can see the amount of stats on CRA, so... that also has advantage.
They seems to have advantage.
Yeah, and then if you look at Golox and you look at the quality of the flames there, immediately, like look at the belt. It's like, okay, well, right? There's no advantage there, right? There's just a whole lot of pain and suffering. It's just like 10.
I used a red flame and everything went away.
Yeah. So it only has they changed it so the required level shows up on the name here because a lot of people thought that their flame did nothing because the numbers don't really show up. The required level doesn't really stand out very much. So sometimes people thought that their flame didn't do anything. So that's why it's changed here as well. But so with that being said, with all of that information, right? Like, okay, now you know if something, and if you look at the flame video, you can see the link in the chat, right? I talk about like, you know, I give links as well to like a database where you can see which items have flame advantage or not. What it all comes down to eventually is, well, if I see a flame, how do I know if it's good enough or if I have to improve it, right? Like how much is it going to cost me? So there's also a cost calculator, but that is linked to the flame score. So basically what, I didn't come up with this, it's just something that people used, is the flame score, which basically tries to give a number, a value to a flame, so that it's more easy to, right, then to be like, okay, this is tier 5 strength, tier 4 dex plus strength, tier 6 attack, and tier 3 all stat. That doesn't really tell you anything, right? So what I try to do with the flame score is redirect all of the things that give you damage into one number, and that number tries to represent the total amount of main stat that would be equivalent to that. So like your glove, if you put that into the flame score calculator in your current situation, so all stat is probably like around 8, 8.5 each. So let's say that that's like around like 42.5. Dex is about 10 to 1, so that's 4.5. So that brings us to 47, and then 15 on the main, so that's like 62. So like that would be like a 62 flame score. That would be like the number. So if you had 62, only 62 strength and nothing else, you would get around the same damage. But what the flame score takes into account is if all of your things are roughly upgraded to the quality of the progression grid. So it is possible that something, if you calculate it, has a little bit higher flame score but loses you range, or vice versa. But that will have to do with where in the game you are, and compared to what you have access to. If you are maybe, you know, underdeveloped in one part of the game and overdeveloped in another part of the game. But once you balance everything out, the flame score will be a good prediction of this is how good this flame on this item is going to be. And so once you use the flame score calculator, once you get used to kind of looking at a flame and kind of seeing like, okay, this is roughly this much, then you can use the progression grid and see how good is this flame? Do I need to work on it now? Can I work on it later? Or is this like a horrible flame that is top priority? So there's 3 categories here. There's the weapon flame, and the weapon is a little bit different because the main importance on the flame of the weapon is the weapon attack. And sadly, the weapon attack is a bit more complicated because the tier of the flame is represented by a percentage, and that percentage is the percentage of the base attack of the weapon that gets multiplied. And every single weapon has a different base attack, so the numbers are all over the place, right? So for the weapons, for the progression and for the advice for the weapons, I go by the tier. So tier 4, tier 5, tier 6. And if you see a plus, that just means anything else that gives you damage. So if you hover over it, it'll explain it here. So like the plus is like percentage boss damage, percentage all stat, right? That would signify a plus. But the main thing is to go for a high tier on the weapon attack. So if we use the calculator, for example, for you, so this is the calculator that someone from my community made. You can pick for late game and for end game, whichever one you want to predict for. So we can put in your weapon, for example, right, if we want to make sure. So we can't really use the other stats too much. It's a little bit tricky. But we can check for the weapon to see if it fits into the progression grid. So we want to see here, you're around here. So we want to have a tier 5 plus or tier 6. That would be ideal for a flame on your weapon right now.
Okay.
So we are... by the way, didn't you say like you were getting your weapon, but you already have your weapon, right?
Yeah, that's a fake episode. I can't get it more than 12 star.
Right, because you used to be able to reroll the potential, but not the Star Force.
Yeah.
Right.
Then I'm getting the real Epsilab on Sunday, next reset.
Because the new fake Zolabs, those have locked potential, but have the Star Force locked at 17.
Oh, okay.
But you can still flame those. So, are you currently doing a Terror Burn?
Yes.
If you get that one to 220 before the end, you can get a box with a fake Absolab weapon as well that you can put on a character if you want to.
Oh, yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen. 220,
yeah, 220 is quite a lot, of course. You do get benefits at 200, 205, and 210 as well. You get like extra nodes that will help you. But yeah, and the new fake so the new fake weapons are 17 star, and then the potential is locked at 30% boss And I believe... Oh, I always fuck this up. But I think it's like 10% crit and 9% damage, I think. So it's really good for like a new character, but it's definitely not endgame, right? Because like that lock potential is not like insane or anything. So if you have the money and the resources and you're close to a real Absolab, then you do want to make a real Absolab, of course, because it is quite a bit better.
All right.
So for the weapon, so we need to know the base attack of the weapon, and we need to know the level of the weapon, and we need to know if it has flame advantage or not. Well, it's Abzo, so we know it's flame advantage. We know it's level 160, so it's this tier. And then the base attack was 203. And you can already see up here what the tiers are. Well, I'll zoom in a little bit. Right, and the 62, I believe, is what we have. Oh, we have 63. Oh, because I put 203 down, you see? So it's a rounding. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, so 63. So we have a tier 5. But what we have as well is 45 strength and 3 all stat, right? And we can say that you are a strength character. And we have 45 and 3 all stat. So that's like equivalent of 670 and a half, right? Flame score. If we translate that, this is like a little bit of magic. But let's say that you have like 10 attack. Oh, 20 attack. Okay, that's a little bit higher. Like, right? So basically that's like the equivalent if you had 18 extra attack. And what is one tier of attack here is 19. So you basically have the equivalent right now of a tier 6. Because of the extra stats you have. So this is like kind of puzzling, but so you have equivalent of tier 6 basically. So if you look back at the progression grid, what you're looking for is tier 5 plus or tier 6. That's basically exactly where you are. So if you're going to get your other real weapon, you're going to be looking for like a similar flame. So either one that has the same attack and a bunch of and like some extra stuff like you do now, or tier 6, which would be 82 at least, or 82 and, you know, some other stuff that helps you as well. The tier 7 is only on Eternal Flames and is only 1% chance to... So you have to hit the stat, and then within hitting the stat, there's only a 1% chance you hit a tier 7 for the stat. So that is like Fantasyland territory. So like that's why when you look at the... When you look here, like tier 7 is like only mentioned here and here for people who are throwing like billions at it. Because the other thing you can also do is you can use the calculator of the expected costs, which someone else made, and then you can see how crazy that would be if we tried to aim for that, right? Like let's say that we have a weapon, which is other, yeah. We have a weapon, and we're going to use Eternal Flames because we have to, and we want to get tier 7 attack and nothing else. Then on average, it's somewhere between 330 and 475 Eternal Flames. So if you want to get anything else, let's say like 4% damage, that immediately goes up to like 1,000, 1,500. You know, if you want to get like 10%, then we're probably talking about like, yeah, multiple thousands. So you can see how crazy it can get. But if you want to get like tier 6, what do I have? I think I have tier 6 with 15. Like, it goes down quite a bit. So, depending on your standards later, you can throw it into the calculator and be like, okay, do I want to flame this item? Do I have a bunch of flames left over? This item doesn't have a high flame score anyway. How many flames on average would this... Like, what is the value of my current flame? Like, how many flames is this worth? And as a result, what is the easiest thing to flame over? So, if you can look back at the progression grid, right? And you look back at the flame score for the other items... So the non-advantage items, so that's just like the superior, the Sweetwater, etc. We already said that some of your stuff is like high 40s, right? Like 48 or something, right?
Yeah.
So that's very high. That's already like future-proof quite a bit. Like 44 in the earrings, 48 in the pendant. That's really good. 32 and an attack and some dex on the other pendant. Like that's pretty good too. I mean, the belt could use some improvement. But other than that, like these are already pretty high up. So the priorities are probably, if I'm looking at your stuff right now, like the Absolab stuff, we're going to get only to 17. The Absolab stuff can probably make some improvement, right? Because the Absolab stuff would be under advantage and would be... so there's a range here because some pieces that have advantage are like level 140 and others can go arcane all the way up to 200. So there's a little bit of a discrepancy there between the lower end and the higher end. That's because of the levels.
Okay.
So... Yeah, we want like 85 to 95. So 85 would be like your cup, and 95 would be like the Abzu gear, basically. So for Abzu gear, you have a lot of room for growth. and then like the CRA is in between, so that would be like around 90. So the CRA also has a decent room for growth. So if you're flaming anything, you could do it as a test, like calculate the current flame score of your Absolab, your CRA, and your cup. But well, your cup is 60 and 5. So you can, if you want to, you can calculate all their flame scores and you can save them here and be like cape or something, right? And then just save them, and then you can see all the values next to each other, and then you can compare that with how much you're aiming for here, and then you can clearly see which item has the most room for growth and which one should be your highest priority to flame.
Alright.
That's like the long way of doing it. As you get more used to it, you just look at an item and you're like, okay, this one is shitty, this one needs to be redone, right? After a while, it becomes second nature, it becomes automatic to you. But in the beginning, wow, when your tattoo is 57, right? So just to give that as an example, right? So if we take off the flame advantage here, and we do armor, powerful, 57, and you have, what was it, 57 and 15 dex. So at this point you'll probably be at 9, not 89, 9. What else? That? So if we're like for endgame comparison, 3 attack, 10 secondary set, yeah. So you would be like at 50, so 58. So you're yeah. So that's like an equivalent of like almost 500 powerful flames of the flame on your tattoo.
I got lucky.
Yeah. So, but then you know how lucky you get. So this is like 1,000 flame value. But if you compare that, for example, to your top, which just has 48, right? And then we go back, and you do flame advantage, 149. Wait, not 58, right? 48. Yeah. And then you calculate. It's like, oh.
Not so lucky anymore.
Yeah. So even though the number is really close, right? The average expected value of getting that is like way higher on the other one, right? It's like not even remotely close. So that means that if you have a flame now, the potential for growth and the potential that even if you get unlucky, that you get your stats back on the top is like 4 flames or 5 flames at the worst. Whereas the chance that you get something like that back at the tattoo is 500. So that's why it's important to know like what score are you going for, and that should be reflected here, right? If you have the non-flame advantage, like late game, people are aiming for like 50s here. So you're like here with the tattoo, but with the top, you're like barely here, right?
Yeah.
So that you can see that in this grid, and it's also reflected in the numbers here. So that's how that's all connected for flames.
All right.
So it might be some puzzling in the beginning, but I think you'll get used to it pretty quickly. And then the other stuff is star forcing and cubing. For cubing, it's mainly like the order of cubing is pretty well, whether it's important or not for your current situation. For your current situation, it's not as important, but mainly it's like WSE first. If you're maining your one character, which you are, then your accessory is usually second, right? So you can get meso-obtain, drop rate, and get a lot of money while you're training. And then after that, in the beginning you get like a hybrid set, and then as you go further, you split it out between a damage set and a mobbing set, right? And then as you get further, then you start moving into like the Abso stuff, all the other pieces, and then typically CRA last because they have a lot of junk lines when you tier them up. Now, of course, you played a long time ago when I think 15 stars was max, right? At least, well, everything is 13, so there's like a lot of space there for star forcing. So as you might have already guessed, at this point with how good your potential is versus your star force, by far the most important thing for you is going to be working on your star force. So one really important thing is transfer hammering. Are you familiar with how that works?
I've read on it a bit, but I've never actually used it.
I put the link in the chat. There's a video that I made about transfer hammering and transposing, and also because of how it works, at what stages of the game do you need to look to start preparing, and do you actively need to engage with it to make progress in the game. So the main thing that transfer hammering and then transposing later do is they allow you to transfer qualities of one item onto another one through the process. So the main thing is, the main reason you would do it is to transfer how it's upgraded. So flames are not transferred through transfer hammering, but stars are -1, and your potential is, but only up to epic. But you keep the same lines. When it comes to transposing, your flame is transferred over. So that is something that we use later when we move into Sweetwater equips, because Sweetwater does not have flame advantage. But we have some items that we can transpose into the Sweetwater that have flame advantage, and that way you can get a really good flame on Sweetwater. Plus, you can get more backups from Sweetwater by doing the Commercy Voyages and buying backups. So because of the higher tier, because of the transposing buff, because of the flame advantage going over, and because of the backup that gives you more chance of higher Star Force, transposing is really beneficial. So for most people, it's just Dominator Pendant to 16 stars transpose into the Sweetwater Pendant, and you use that as your second pendant, because you can no longer rely on 2 pendants to get your set bonus, right?
Yeah.
They changed that. Only 1 superior pendant in the set bonus anymore. So that's usually why we transpose. That's typically something you look towards doing when everything is like, well, your potential is already there, but when Star Forcing wise, everything is like around 17 Star Force. And the reason for that is because you can safeguard up to 17, but not past 17. So past 17, it gets really risky. And that's where Star Forcing comes, that's where Transfer Hammering comes in. So if the target item is pretty rare, you don't want to boom it, but you want to go past 17 stars, what you can do is you can take a lower level item that is not as rare, and just mass Star Force, don't safeguard, just YOLO it until you get very high Star Force, and then Transfer Hammer it into the item that's like within 10 levels higher. So for a superior belt, that would be, for example, the Pink Bean belt, right? Level 140. Very easy to get, drops from normal, drops from chaos, so you can get a lot of backups. Wait until there's an event, just throw a bunch of money at it, try to get very high Star Force, and if you hit something like 20, 21 or 22, is typically what you go for, right? Because when you Transfer Hammer, you lose 1 star, and you typically don't want to go below the safe spots, right? So 5, 10, 15, 20 are the safe spots. So like 21 would be like the golden standard, at least in the beginning, for like the first major switch. And then you transfer over, boom, now you have a 20-star superior belt, and you didn't have to risk any superior belt. And then it goes down to epic though, so then you have to redo the potential. So all the items where you are planning on doing this, you make sure that you don't go too far on the potential, because you have to redo it later anyway. And you start working on backups. And all of the items where you can get enough backups and you're going to Star Force on them. So that's more pieces like CRA, right? Because you can keep doing CRA every week. You can get a bunch of backups. There, the Star Forcing is going to be even better because you don't have to transfer. So there's no loss of that 1 star. So you can go to 21 on that like faster than anything else. As long as you have the backups, you just have to throw a lot of money. How you do it, though, that's up to you. Like, do you want to go 1 item to 21 first and then work on the next one? Do you just want to get everything to 17, then everything to 18, then everything to 19? And if anything booms, you replace it with the trace and then work your way back up. That's another way to do it. The second one is more efficient with money if you have limited resources. The first one can be maybe more efficient if you have a lot of dailies to do and you want to cross a daily off your list so you never have to do it again. That could work. But the main thing is wait for events, right? So 30% off events are really good to get up to 15. And again, so for you, the events where the items where you have enough backups, don't safeguard, just send them to 15. If they boom, very low chance, but if they boom, just replace the trace and just keep going. The items that you do have low backups of, so your superior stuff and your Abzo stuff, typically, my advice would be like get the level 140 and 150 gear, Star Force it during 30% off, and then transfer it over. But you already have Legendary on all of this, and the money you save from just the Star Forcing up to 15 and 16 and not having to safeguard versus the money you would have to spend to do the potential again is not worth it. So since we're just aiming for 17 star for now, just safeguard on the items. So the next main big event you're looking for is a 30% off event. That will, and then you would safeguard and try to get everything up to 15. Now, getting up to 15 is pretty expensive and doesn't give you that much, so it might be a little bit demoralizing. But once you get past 15 and you get from 15 to 17, you can start getting weapon attack with every star, and it goes up with every star. So that's when the real big gains are made once you go past 15. Yeah.
And you'd focus on getting like the 3 pieces of CRA to 17 instead of focusing on 1 to 20, right?
Yeah, so first I would like wait for 30% off, get everything to 15, and then when everything is 15, wait for a 5, 10, 15 event, and that way 15 to 16 always works, and then all you have to do is safeguard 16 to 17, and then you're done. And then you can be at 17 for everything. It's going to be pretty expensive for all these items. So I think for now, that's like the high priority to go for. So you can see like, so what I did is I didn't do the Abzo thing yet, right? So I have like the level 150 equips, and I got it up to 16. And this, you will also see this in the transfer hammering video if you watch it. So this would transfer hammer, I would wait for a 5 to 15, transfer into Abzo, get a 15 Abzo, get the 16 again guaranteed, and then safeguard to 17, and then be done and have 17 star. And you can see my CRA is already at 17. So to compare to yours, this is like pretty good flame, right? It's not like insane, but like pretty good flame, and at 17 stars. So the strength is 140, dex 92, and it's 21 weapon attack. So yeah, basically what will start happening is all of your pieces will start becoming teeny tiny weapons. And if you go to 20 or 21, everything is going to have like 70 weapon attack or some shit. And it's going to be crazy. Yeah, that's going to be huge. Yeah. And because that jump is so huge, it's worth having to redo your potential for. So on the items where you don't have 3-line yet, there's no risk. You know, just work on the backups in the long term. For superior pendants, work on dominators. For your belt, work on the pink bean belts. You know, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. For your earring, because they changed the drop table for Helix. Are you up to speed with Helix?
Yes.
Because he's way harder now, right?
Now, and yeah, it's. I got. Yeah.
It was a rude surprise the first time.
Yeah, someone was asking if I could give him coin, and I just got destroyed.
Yeah.
So sure, that wasn't too rough.
So yeah. So with the change of the set bonus, they also changed the drop table. So the earrings and the belt are the drops now, and the pendants and the ring you have to buy from with the coins. And if you have the old coins, you can trade them for the new coins every week. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that.
There's an NPC on the top right, and every week you can trade up to 100 coins. Today's actually the last day. It resets from Tuesday to Wednesday, so today's the last day of the week that you can do it. You can trade up to 100 per week, yeah. Because the new items, if you want to buy them, there's 700 coins for superior each. But you can rebuy them if they blow up or something. So having backups is a nice idea. So you could work on getting backups for superior since you have the 3-line strength there. And they could also drop from the boss itself. So for now, you know, with the same thing, this one is already 15. The other stuff, you're going to try to get it all to 15. The weapon, you know, you're going to get that scroll to 17. That seems fine to me. But once everything is at 17, and you know, the potentials are good, maybe you work on the rings and stuff, you know, work on the accessories, then you can be like, okay, well, I want to go past 17. Then you just go, where do you have the most backups? So probably CRA is going to be like, yo, over here, you know, we can all go to 18. Oh, very easy. Okay, we can all go to 19. Okay, very easy. Still have money. All right, now what do we do? Princess No drops the rings now, so you can get backup kind of treasure rings. That's a very good one, right? Because maybe you can get a few of those. Now you can start pushing your rings. And if you can push one ring very far, you can transfer it into the superior, and boom, have high star superior without risking booming that one. Okay. So that's how you want to look at the value of all of the items. Not always just like, can this item be the best item that I can get? Or can I transfer hammer it into something else? And can that become the best item? So if you have enough superior Golix earrings, you can, you know, just try the earrings and see if it works. If it, you know, goes to 18, that's cool. But based on the amount of backups, that will be the determination for you, is how risky is it to tier it up, basically.
Try my earrings without safeguard, is what you're saying.
No, I would always safeguard because the amount of backups you have will always be low. And even if you can buy them from the shop, it's 700 each, so that's like 3 weeks of helixing every day for just one backup.
Alright.
So what I'm saying is that if you're trying to go for, if you have the option of, you have like one backup kind of treasure ring, you have one backup superior Golix ring, and everything is 17, and you have like 8 pink bean belts, I would just send the pink bean belts first and try to get a 21 star there. And if you get that, you transfer hammer, and then you redo the potential on the belt, and then that's done. And then try to get all the other stuff to 20 as well that way. But maybe, you know, you have 2 backups of something, so you try to get it to like 18, and you kind of run out of money, then you just stop. Or you have a little bit of money left, but not too much. Why risk, you know, it's a very high risk at that point that you're just going to drop down again. Then just, you know, wait for the next event and save up again. And because you have time to save up, that gives you time to get backups, and then wherever you get the most backups, that's where you take the most risk again next time. Or the least risk, right? That's the one you go for the first time because it's the lowest risk. So that's how you work on getting past 17 stars. And because your potential is already where it is, the main focus is just going to be on star forcing. So the main focus is going to be on dailies and weeklies that give you backups. And, you know, we go back to the very first thing that we looked at, the dailies and weeklies grid. So that's where those backups are coming from. And that's why that one is so important. That's why the first sheet talks about, like, you know, what drops, why do you want to kill this, you know, what's important about this. So you keep that in mind when you're when you're cubing as well. It's like, okay, what is the future of this item? Where is this item going? And as a result, is this potential good enough or not? And is the value of working on this cubing going to be realized or not? If the next step, like for example, like let's say that you want to get your superior ring to, like, you know, you have enough equips, you're going to be separating your drop rate set and your damage set. Superior ring definitely wants to be in the damage set, right, for the set bonus. So let's say, like, okay, I want to go for more strength. Well, let's say that you also have like 5 backup kind of treasure rings, and there's a 5, 10, 15 next week. Well, obviously you don't cube now, right? Because you're going to send the kind of treasure rings first. If you get a high amount, you're going to transfer hammer over, and the potential is going to reset, and then you have to redo it anyway. So that would be a bad time to work on your, right? So that's how you look at your, if there's a cube. But cube sales are very rare now, by the way. DMTs are very rare. They went really poorly. We had a DMT recently where they're trying to fix the system a little bit. I don't know if you follow that.
Yeah,
we could register, right?
Yeah, I registered, and I didn't have much money because I just came back though.
Yeah, and there was no cube sale together with it either, so... But the cube sales before that were horrible, so this one was a step in the right direction, so they might be trying to bring them back. But, yeah, the cube sales before were horrible, like nobody was able to cube, everyone would keep crashing. Cubes would take like 15 minutes to resolve, or they would just disappear and people would lose their cubes. Yeah, it was really, really bad, so... so you mainly... Just the main focus is just star forcing, honestly. For the badge, that badge is like completely gone, can never be replaced. So if you are going to work on star forcing there, double, triple, quadruple, quintuple check that you are safeguarding. Never do anything to risk losing that, because there's no way to replace that. And the only replacement is the Crystal Ventus badge that drops from Magnus that gives like 5 all stat without potential. That's the only replacement.
Yeah, it's not that great. Okay.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's a huge downgrade. So don't do anything to risk blowing that up. One Droid has come back a few times and seems to be a regular, but like star forcing this is not important. The main priority for star forcing is getting things to 15 that you can after that get past 15. That's the important part. So if something gets that's where the gains are. Yes, exactly. That's where you get your value. So a One Droid heart being 12 or 15 doesn't do anything for you. Like, you know, that's just aesthetically. And the badge as well, the badge does not get attack past 15 because they wanted to make sure that the difference between people with potential badges and without potential badges wasn't too much.
Okay.
So that's also, Star Force-wise, pretty low priority. That's something you can do much later. Yes, the main important thing is just to be popping things up to 15. If there is no 30% off or 1+1 Star Force, which we had last weekend, before the next 5, 10, 15, you can also use 5, 10, 15 to get stuff to 15. But I would only do that if you have a lot of money saved up by then. That you're also, yeah. Or
otherwise, you'd wait for the 30%.
Yeah, but if there's a 5, 10, 15, you want to prioritize on getting stuff from 15 to 17. So it would be more beneficial if there's 5, 10, 15 to get your earrings to 17 and then do one item at a time that's 13 and getting from 13 to 17 before going to the next item, instead of getting everything to 15. If there's a 30% off, then get everything to 15 and wait there until 5, 10, 15 and then get from 15 to 17.
Okay.
because you proportionally spend a lot to get to 15 for very little gains.
And how often do they come around? The 30% and 5
Yeah, so if you check !events, I have an event calendar here that is synchronized with all of the with the patch notes that we get. So I go over the patch notes and I look at all the events, and there's also links to the patch notes. And one thing is that we get now is we get Sunny Sundays. So everything like the Star Force events, Inner Ability rerolls, the Magnificent Soul events, all of those things, those all happen on Sunny Sundays. And if you click the Sunny Sundays, you will see the picture that I just ripped from the patch notes. And you can see which week we get which. So as soon as we get the patch notes, we know all of the Sunny Sundays that are coming up, and then you can plan and be like, oh, 3rd week, Star Force event, bam, mark your calendar, and then you know how much money you need, and then you know what you're working for specifically.
Also, it's usually 1 time per month.
Yeah, so the I would say patch is probably every 5 to 8 weeks at the most, but usually it's around like 6 or 7 weeks. So we usually get 1 batch of like 6 or 7, and typically there's at least 1 30% off or 1 5, 10, 15 in every batch of 6 to 7 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you see now we had a 30% off in July 25th, and we have a where's the? Is this the old one? Wait.
No. We got the 10-star announcement this week.
Wait, what is it? 17th? Oh no, here it is. Yeah, receive 2 stars when you successfully... I'm not familiar with how it's written. Receive 2 stars when you successfully do Star Force 10 enhancements and lower. So this is one where if you Star Force and you succeed, you get 2 instead of 1. And it also works for 10 to 12, but then, not beyond that. So that's also an okay event to get up to 15 if there's no 30% off soon.
Okay.
Yeah, and this links back into, if you check !Star Force, because then, there's like all of the stuff for Star Forcing, and there's also a calculator here, made by the same guy, made by Suckhard, very nice online handle. And then you can put in item level, the type, and, if you star catch or not. Usually I do no star catch to err a little bit on the side of caution. Whether you're going to safeguard or not, what stars it is now, how much you want to go to, and then, if you have MVP discount, and then which event is going on. And then you can click calculate, and then it'll just tell you on average how much it's going to cost and the median cost and everything. And then you can kind of see like, okay, how much do you save on 30% off? Yeah, I'm doing like safeguarding arcane up to 200, so yeah, the numbers are a little bit.
Okay.
But if you do, more realistic, let's say your CRA gear, right? No star catching, no safeguarding, from 13 to 17, let's say that, completely off event, right? Let's say if we wanted to do that. So it's like a bill, 1.2 bill on average, right? Now let's say instead we go up to 15 during a 30% off. Okay, that's about, let's say 250 mil, right? And then go from 15 to 17 during a 5, 10, 15. Again, without safeguarding. That's about like, well, let's say 375 or something. So if you put that together, that's like half the price. So that's what patience gets you. Basically, it doubles the value of your mezzo if you're Star Forcing, if you do it at the right time. And because there's so many projects, so many things to work on, by being patient, looking at when the events are, saving up enough money, you can get your gains for like half the money if you're playing it this way. Some people have like a farming kana, they make like billions and billions and billions every day. They don't have the patience, they just throw the money at their account and they get there as well. Maybe they get there faster without waiting because they just make enough money to do so. But that's like a different choice of how you play the game. So that's an option for you as well if you do want to do that, if you start running out of patience or you start playing the game way more and have more hours to play. But yeah, hopefully, because you can look at the value, right, of the flames, and you can look at the value of potential as well. Potential has a calculator like that as well, where you can calculate how much it's going to cost. And for Star Forcing as well, you can, if you want to, you can look at the numbers and be like, what makes the most sense for me to upgrade at this point? But I can tell you right now, with how good your potentials are, it's 100% you want to go full on Star Forcing and get everything to 17 with the same potentials that you have now. And I bet that if you look at this one, to circle back, right, to this, to the progression grid right now, and you compare your stat window in the beginning, if you see how much stat you have, it's probably lower, but not that much. I'm going to be guessing. See? Yeah, 24. And you're like actually at 25, so you're right there. So when it comes to the potential on your equips, you're actually already a little bit higher. And this is a 4-year-old account, right? But when it comes to Star Force, right now you do have the buff event and everything. But for that, you're probably on the lower end. It says right here now that you're like right where you want to be. You're just like 10 over, but you do have Star Force in your guild buff and in your event buff right now that are not included. So if you take those away, then Star Force is where you can make the biggest gains. So that's also how you can like double check.
I have 40 Star Force from Neo Force.
Yeah, and then from the and 15 I think from the guild skills. Where's it? Yeah, here the guild skills were redone as well. So not just the noblesse, but the ones up there. You see level 5. You see a star.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
Yeah. 15. Yeah. So that's 55. So you're like 11 over. So you're actually like 40, like 40 to 45 under. Yeah.
That's big. Okay.
Yeah, and that's where the big difference is. So that's like where we focus on the money.
All right.
Right. So I think we tied it all back. Does everything feel like the connection is clear? And
yeah.
Did it kind of make sense?
Gotta go big on Star Forcing.
Mm-hmm.
Then redoing my potential.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one thing you said that got me curious. You said for the being cautious, you disabled star catching.
Yeah.
How's that
so
it protects your item?
No, that's safeguarding. Star catching is where you try to you can increase the chance a little bit if you star catch, but if you do the little star catch game, right? So disable star catch is this one. If you click enhance and you don't disable it, you get this little game here. Yeah, and then you have to click it in the middle. You get like a very small chance extra, but you have to hit it every single time on every single attempt for the number to be accurate. But if you do it too many times, it speeds up, and you eventually it's so fast that it's impossible to do it. And then the number will not be representative. But the difference is actually quite big. So let's say that we do that same crazy one, right? We do like 0 to 22 on without an event on what's it called, on arcane gear, right? And you get that like what is it, like the 68 bill, and probably pretty big outliers here. Yeah, like 65 bill without star catching. If I add star catching now, for all of it, the cost goes down by a lot. See, it's like 10 bill changed. But do you know how many times you have to star catch to get to 22 arcane, and how long you have to wait?
People disable,
yeah, so I just disable it. That way you have a little bit of a buffer. So if anything, you know, sometimes what I do usually when I'm star forcing, I will star catch usually from 13 to 14 and 14 to 15. Or in the beginning from 14 to 15. If it fails a few times, maybe I'll do 13 to 14 as well. But otherwise, I just take off the star catch and I just let it go. I just click. Because they recently also sped up star forcing by 80%. They sped it up by 300%. So now it's 4 times as fast as it was before. So you can go through it way faster. Which is also scary for star catch, for safeguarding. So make sure that you, if you're star forcing really quickly, that you always double check that you safeguard on an item that you want to make sure you don't blow up. It's very important. Okay. Yeah, so that's why I, to err on the side of caution and not give myself false hope, I do like with no star catching here typically.
All
right. Yeah, so is the future of all the equips... so the other thing, the changes that are coming from KMS is they're actually making two-handed better comparatively compared to one-handed. So you can stay two-handed hammer without having to feel bad, like one-handed hammer, and attack speed is actually better and stuff. They're actually changing it soon.
I thought it was already better.
if you are in a party and someone else can give you an extra rank of attack speed, then it is better. But in all the other situations when you're soloing, you would be missing out on 1 rank of attack speed.
Even with the inner ability?
Yes, even with the inner ability.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
But there is a change coming that the weapon booster gives 1 extra rank. And then basically the one-handed will be switching their attack speed +1 to boss damage. And the two-handed will keep the current inner ability and then hit max attack speed cap solo.
Okay.
And yeah, it'll just get much closer, so you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Yeah.
Right. And if I have Sweetwater weapons, I don't bother with it.
No, you just extract for Philosopher's Stones, right?
All right.
Yep. Yeah, because it's 160, but no set bonus, and you can also see on Sweetwater if you would, if you care to use 1 flame on it, doesn't have flame advantage, so you get really, really bad outcomes. You get like what your belt is as a flame, so yeah, not good, not good.
All right.
Okay, is there any piece of equipment where you're kind of lost,
Not
or
sure.
anything that I said that doesn't make any sense yet?
The gloves, the 8% crit damage, is that hard to come back to?
So the 8% critical damage is a prime line, and basically at this point having critical damage and some stat on it is exactly what you want, even like up to 17 stars. Eventually, not on Abzo, but if you go to Arcane, you want to use black cubes and try to get 2 lines of critical damage. Yeah.
Alright.
But because those are prime lines, you want to use black cubes because it has a better return. Again, you can also throw it into the calculator if you want to see like the differences, but it's just on average cheaper to use black cubes then. And that's when you want to really min-max on the gear once it's Arcane. In the past, like a year and a half ago, I probably would have said aim for 21 star level 150 gloves, transfer hammer into the Abzo gloves, get it to legendary, and then black cube it for 2 lines of critical damage. And then once everything is 20, try to tap it from 20 to 21. But at this point, I don't think that's necessary with the access to Arcane that we're getting. So you'll be fine. The only thing to do on this one is the star forcing and slowly working on the flames. But once you get used to the flame scores, once you calculate that one time, you'll clearly see which item can use the flames the most, and then your bossing flames can go there, and maybe the event flames. Oh yeah, for the event items, the rings can be really good. The rings are really good stats. They are better than all of the event rings you have, and are about the same, maybe even a little bit better than 17 star like superior, reinforced, Kana treasure, and what's the last one? And Meister. So they can give you a really good jump start on getting better stuff. And if you don't have 8 rings in total yet, kind of look at, so which rings would you add, right? You'd probably add a Kana treasure to this set when it comes to rings.
I've got one in my inventory.
Oh, you have one? Good, yeah.
Yep.
And then probably eventually you buy reinforced, and you could also go for Meister. So that's like 3 more rings that are coming, and you have 4 already. So there is definitely room for at least 1 more event ring. So I'll probably buy at least 1 on this character.
Think I'll have enough.
Yeah, so I think 3,500 for 1 coupon.
Yeah, and it's 7 for the scroll for star.
Yeah.
Do you think the scroll is worth it?
So if you needed like more event rings, I would say get the event rings over the scroll for sure. But since you already are in this situation, and I think you only need 1, I think you're fine. The only other thing that would be maybe worth more is getting more nodes, because the income for nodes is not great, right? And if you're still working on your meso and drop rate set as well, and your drop rate isn't super high yet, the nodes could be high value too. But I think you'll have enough for the scroll and for a ring, and then for some more nodes, I think, right? You'll be able to buy a little bit more, like a few thousand.
I'll have 1 or 1,500. No, maybe more, because it ends later now, with what you told me.
Yeah.
So yeah, like 2k for nodes.
Yep, and the journal, and the Sunday is triple, so it's good amounts.
So yeah,
a
few
that's probably
nodes, the ring, the scroll, and then a few nodes.
Yeah, you can pick for the ring which one you want, but there's 3 different rings, but they all have the same stats. They're all like 40 all stat and 25 weapon and magic attack, and 4,000 HP MP. Yeah.
So you can't go wrong there.
No, you can't go wrong. Well, you don't want to buy one that you already have, but you don't have either of them. But you can only have like one of them. So,
Right.
but it will tell you. But the problem is, if you have all 3 rings, you can still buy the coupon. But then if you try to use the coupon, you can't use it.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a little cocked. So it's good to know beforehand that you double check if you already have the rings. Yeah. But yeah, they're just really good. They're basically going to be 17-star placeholder rings. So it's almost like you're getting a ring and you're getting a 17-star scroll on top of it. So it's a really good value.
So
Yeah, I guess you have some. Yeah, you have some items down here. The model student pencil. Yeah, that one's not. That one's no value. Doesn't have flame advantage, right? You can look at the numbers. Be like, damn, that's.
Yeah, it's low. And I dropped the pink bean cup, and I was like, okay.
We got that as a
one,
drop like that. Yeah, 16.5 is really good.
Just like that.
That gets you all the way through. Maybe in endgame, you want to consider maybe improving it a little, but even for endgame, this is like a very low priority to do any kind of work on. Once you do the flame score thing, you'll see how much, like how far ahead this one is above everything else.
Right.
It's almost as much as the tattoo that I showed you, compared to the other stuff. Yeah.
That's great. It's mostly with the flames they gave with the compensation.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you picked up some of the compensation?
Yep.
Okay.
And that's pretty much what where my flames come from.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sweetwater shoes can be like anvil if you really want to, but at this point doesn't have any value. But you know, maybe sometimes in the future, who knows? The unique black beam mark, you can use this if you want to. You can also like use Star Force event, get it to. I mean, I probably get it to like 15. You can get it to 15 and then wait until there's a fact in 15, get it to 16, and then if you get the Papalatus mark drop, you can transfer this one into it, and then get the Pup mark back to 16, and then go for the good flame and then transpose it into the monocle. So you can that way you can basically use this as like 100% EPOT plus a Star Force transfer. Yeah. Slowly over time.
I was keeping that one for drop rate or meso, but
you could also do that. That could also be good value if you're going for the separate sets. That would be better to do. If those are your 2 options, that would be better to do. But if you already have like a legendary like Zakum Eye, for example, then I would just use that one for drop or meso instead. And use this one to transfer over.
Okay.
Right. I think that covers everything.
Looks like it.
Okay. Well, bonne chance.
Merci. And thank you very much.
Yeah, I'll see you around, and I hope you succeed in everything you want to in this game, and keep it fun.
You too,
and maybe your friend will show up someday. Who knows?
Maybe. I'll have a thought.
Then you can teach him.
Yeah.
All right, man. Have fun, and good luck.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Again, a little bit longer than usual, but we had a lot of ground to cover. But he already picked up some other stuff really quickly after coming back. For not playing for 4 years, he already picked up some of the stuff. Of course, familiars. He wasn't really familiar with that. And flames can be a little bit daunting and confusing, especially if you're coming from nebulites into this. Is like, what the hell is going on? Nebulites. Very, very simple. Is just like, oh, 1% equals 1%. And then it's like, done. Oh, it's a B rank. Now it's 2%. Right? That was the only variance. With this, so much variance. So we go for the flame score. Calculate your flame score. Check it with the grid. See if you need to work on it or if it's fine for now. That's what it comes down to. For all of these things, make sure you check the links in my commands. A lot of extra detailed information there. And you can find way more information on the other YouTube videos, of course, that I have guides on all of these individual topics. So if you like this session, I'm glad. Hopefully it was informational to you guys. And if you want one of these sessions for yourself, or you want to join my guild, where we try to have a community, try to do things together, help each other out, give each other information and encouragement, of course, you can also find a link to join the EU and NA Reboot guilds, if you're interested. By the way, I don't know how the EU management of the guild is going right now. I'll check in on that if we have a lot. We don't have a lot of people playing in EU, by the way. EU Reboot kind of dead. Or if you have data for me in the game that I can use to inform people on how good the classes are, please submit battle analyses. monster skill per hour, which you can use the Veteran Hunter Challenge for, or training videos of yourself in Moonbridge areas, anywhere in Tenebris, anywhere in Greater Grandis. Those are very helpful as well. So if you have any kind of that information, please submit it. And well, all that's left for me is just to thank you guys for watching. I hope it was fun. Hope you learned something. And I'll